apart under their own weight of mythology.
Even for me as a filmmaker and for me as sort of student of comic books, he always was that sort of magic golden god up on a hill you couldn't really touch. So when Chris called me and said, would I be interested in talking about Superman, I thought, I'll listen. What he and David were able to do was make him relatable in their story. You could say, if I were Superman, that's what I would have done.
Cinematically, prior to the Man of Steel, Superman hasn't really changed, and part of what we had to do is re-educate the audience and get them comfortable with the fact that we were actually going to change the Superman mythology a little bit.
Superman has entered our culture beyond popular culture. It's now the world's culture. It's primal.
When we released the first photo of Henry in the Superman suit, there's all this chatter all over the internet that the Superman suit reveal was trending higher than the debt crisis.
There's a difference between dressing up like Superman and being Superman. And that was the difference with Henry when he was in the costume. It's a magical thing. It's like a glass slipper. Henry put the costume on and he was Superman.
Henry has given great thought to every aspect of his performance. And when he's in that suit, he really changes. He really owns the character, even when the cameras aren't rolling.
One of my first days on set, I was talking with Amy, and right then I look over and there's Henry walking towards me. I was like, holy shit. She's like, right? Superman.
I made a joke with him at one point that we weren't actually filming a movie, that we were doing So You Want to Be a Superhero, and it's actually a reality show, and they were just putting him through every torturous scenario, and that I was actually the host.
I think it takes someone really special to be able to transform themselves to play this role. You become a role model to all these kids who are going to look up to you, and that's a huge responsibility.
It's an honor to have such a true fan here.
Well, that means a lot.
The one thing which struck me the most and really brought home the importance of this icon is that the people who were wanting to get autographs or photographs were enormous fans of the character. And their interaction with me was enormously flattering, because they look at me in a certain way which makes me realize the responsibility that is on my shoulders and how important it is to these people that I do this right. This is now as much a lifestyle choice as it is a career choice.
All these changes that you're going through, one day you're going to think of them as a blessing, and when that day comes, you're going to have to make a choice. A choice of whether to stand proud in front of the human race or not.
Can I just keep pretending I'm your son?
You are my son.
Typically in the films and the comic books, the Kents have been depicted as much older. We wanted to make a break from that. We wanted them to be parents and not grandparents. We deal a lot more in this movie with the anxiety that the Kents have as adopted parents, knowing that they don't know if his real parents are still out there or not, or if they'll show up one day. Superman is the ultimate kind of nature versus nurture story. I mean, that debate is still raging on in our society. You know, how much of who we are is because of our genetics and because of our upbringing.
Clark is a well-brought-up farm boy. At the same time, he's ultimately an outsider at all stages of his life. And the only place he's ever made to feel at home is with Martha and Jonathan.
I think Martha and Jonathan were both rather heroic as parents, in that they had to persevere with protecting Clark with his anonymity without instilling shame. But it was very much them against the world, in the sense of this shared secret.
We have a really protective nature for him, because instinctually when something bad happens, he is able to react. And when he reacts in a way that's supernatural, like something nobody's ever seen before, and they're not sure what they've just seen.
The lucky thing for Clark is that Jonathan gets it kind of on the first bounce. He understands, and he's got certain abilities that are spectacular and strange, but otherworldly. But Jonathan understands right away that it's a blessing and a curse.